It's day 2 of the LATAM 6 Major. Everyone that's joining us, strap in for this one. It is going to be a bumpy ride. NIP, the Ninjas in Pyjamas, will be starting off on defense. We've got FaZe Clan coming out on attack here into our opening best of the night. This is the upper bracket final, so whoever wins this will secure themselves, of course, that one map advantage into the Championship Sunday B05 for the Crown team. It's all to play for. 50k on the line and a boatload of SI qualification points. You've got to get those claws out, and you've got to fight tooth and nail into this series.
You really do, and of course it's worth pointing out, Jackie, 50k is just for the winner. The prize pool is bigger than that, and that is what number 1 spot takes home. So as you say, they are going to be fighting hard for that. That is a very good payday for I'll say a few weeks of Siege, but these boys put in some serious hours, but it is still not too shabby at all, and they're going to be fighting hard for it. And like you say, those SI points as well going to be very important. Now, loading into round number 1, we will be going to Germany. We will be heading to Clubhouse for the first, and honestly, Jackie, I'm not sure I could think of a better map for this one to start off on.
No, Clubhouse is an absolute banger for it, Tim. We've had some great Clubhouse plays. Honestly, it's actually had some of the more ridiculous rounds in terms of the last minute that we've seen coming out, and it's also had some questionable moves, especially back yesterday when we were looking at the utilization of Oryx over towards Garage, right? We were scratching our heads a couple of times and trying to debate if he was the right operator, the best tool for the job. It kind of felt like you were trying to use a knife to get a Phillips head screw just tied in, Tim. It didn't seem like it was the most optimum method.
Sometimes you've just got to make do and mend, though, Jackie. You know, I'm not a big DIY guy, and I'm certainly one to whip a butter knife out of the drawer if I've got a loose Phillips head that needs tightening up. I'm all about that, and sometimes you've just got to make it work. But you know, we did question the Oryx, particularly. Obviously, it can be difficult on rotations, and he can make the flanks very, very tough to watch because it just creates, rather than 2 or 3 staircases dependent on the map, you've also then got 2 or 3 hatches as well. So something like your Nomad pick sort of goes out of the window a little bit there because there's no way that you can cover all of those potential routes. Now, it is interesting to note, we touched on it briefly yesterday, and it may be something that we will see here, unlikely with the clash on the board, that he can be a potential deterrent to a Montagna as well. To be honest, I don't really mention it as too much of a factor because in all the professional play that I've watched, I haven't yet seen it used successfully where Oryx charged down a Monty. And the reason for that is that Monty generally plays in conjunction. He plays in a very close duo with somebody more often than not. It's almost like he's got a handler. He's got somebody there that's just nudging him around and making sure he's going in the right position, making sure he's safe. And the thing with Oryx's dash is he has to stand up to do it, so it completely exposes him. So somewhere like the Garage Catwalk, as much as you could argue, right, if Monty gets up there, it's going to be a deterrent. He can't push too close to the Oryx because he may just dash him and knock him down. But the likelihood is that's not going to happen because you've got Nesco, you've got whoever it might be as the handler on the Monty. In this case, it's likely to be Muzi, potentially in the later round if we do see that Brota as it's attacking. But it's going to be somebody like Ion or Mav that's going to be in there as the handler for the Monty. And they're just going to shut the Oryx down. They're just going to absolutely gun him on the catwalk as soon as he stands up. That's what they're waiting for. So again, I do feel like there's probably more useful utility that can be brought if you're not going to send him out on the roam. I just don't think he's much of a deterrent to the Monty at this level of play. Put him in ranked, absolutely perfect. Here, not so much.
No, you can definitely have more of a field day with him in public play, but with the quality of Siege we're seeing coming out here, it's just not going to work as well. Unfortunately, it seems like NIP are working quite well together. They have the 2 players supporting one another over towards the oil pit. Nice little swing out. You find the close contact against Astro, just overwhelm him. Dashes Zofia gone immediately. And obviously, Yuna, he was playing towards him, as you said. You know, it's like the big dog on the leash, the big Rottweiler looking to get in there and do some damage to him. But unfortunately, his owners slipped down. He's gone. He's been left in the mud.
He's been dragged over by the lead, Jackie. We've all seen it happen. The dog's taken off at full speed and he's taken him with him. I heard... I mentioned it yesterday, Jackie, but I heard you drop a little Fenton reference in there yesterday. And, you know, I commented on the men with Ben. The reference game was strong yesterday, and you brought Fenton to the table as well, and that's exactly what we've seen. He's just dragged him over and just pulled him along behind him through that muddy puddle.
Jesus Christ, Yuna! Yuna! Oh, mate, it is a nightmare. And talking of nightmares, this is the sort of thing you do have in a lucid dream that you don't want to be a part of. You drop down through the hatch, you're stuck there. Big chunky boy like you know on the Monty, you're not going to be able to do much. You're inhaling those toxic particles. That's going to drop down your HP. And you've also got a clash ahead of you, electrifying the situation. This is a struggle, Tim. It's looking like classic NIP in the style of play where they'll just hold back. They'll play crossfires. They'll wait for the push to come through. Ion's the only one that is actually biting back for the side of FaZe. But in the end, NIP won't be phased. They'll get the opening round. They'll lock it down here, coming in with a strong defensive round to start off on Clubhouse. And that was nice. Relatively clean. Not too messy, didn't overextend too far. Basically just set up traps and turtled, and they walk away with a very nice round.
Great team play we saw there. Great combination of operators coming in from Julio and Kamikaze. So we had the clash in the smoke, and we saw them deal with the Montagna extremely easily. Soon as he dropped down that hatch, there's two things that happened. First of all, Julio moved in quickly and faced him off, front to front, shield to shield, and got that electricity working. Now, for anybody who's not aware, the electricity will damage Monte even through his extended shield. So Clash is a perfect counter to Montagna because there's very little that they can do against the Clash. Can't approach them quickly enough to take the melee shot to knock the shield away. Can't drop the shield to ADS on the pistol because Clash has got a shield in front of her. So very, very effective counter. You have to have a handler. You have to have that second man there in order to deal with the Clash. So by teaming that up with the smoke, it basically, Monty's slow anyway. By locking him down and slowing him even further with that electricity, it just caught him in place, taking absolute lungfuls of that toxic canister, Jackie, and it ate away at his health really quickly, as we saw. Perfect way of dealing with him, and ultimately, FaZe's attack didn't really feel like it had too much edge to it there. It came to a hatch drop. That was largely it, and NIP dealt with it very well.
Well, it's hard as well, right? Because obviously NIP, their attack and their defense styles, they correlate quite a lot. You can look at the way they play their attack. They like to go for slow, late round executions. They'll burst out in the last, 30 seconds of the round normally. They won't really overextend too aggressively. And that translates into the way they play their defense. They like to hold back. They'll effectively turtle in towards sites, play for those crossfires. If they are going to go for a peek, it'll be in a two-man position where they can trade for one another. And they will be able to swing in if you get an opening frag. That's what's nice about Snip's defense. You can see they're really calculated at playing that slower, more strategical style of siege. And for FaZe, your option then is, what do? Do you turn up the tempo? Do you come out with utter confidence and really just swing into the firefights? Because that's probably the sort of aggression you need to bring here, Tim. If you go in slow, NIP are just going to be licking their lips, waiting for you to walk into the site in the last minute with all their utility ready for you and just overpower you with everything they've had in their back pockets for the past 2 minutes.
It's exactly what we saw against Team Liquid yesterday. You know, how many rounds did we see Team Liquid lose based on time? We commented on it, and that is exactly what they did. Julio gave us some great insight on it and said, yeah, you know, they weren't pushing us particularly quickly, and we were just happy to let them play their game, basically. And like you said, we'll sit inside. It's a delicate balance. It's a delicate balance as a defender, because if you get aggressive and you're pushing up and you're playing a high line of defense, you sort of up the tempo of the round and you force the attackers into quicker movement, because then they get a challenge onto you. It's 50-50, and if they win that gunfight, then you see that pressure coming onto site a lot quicker. So by not doing that as the defenders, you sort of waste time, and you've got to pick the right teams to do it against, though, because if you come up against an aggressive team, then you're going to struggle, because they are just going to rush you. Somebody like MRBR, give them that chance, step back, and they will just run at you full speed. Whereas if you recognise that a team is actually playing quite slowly in the face of that, it is a delicate balance, but NIP seem to have perfected being able to do that and playing off that lack of aggression from the attackers and actually just letting them waste their own time.
For my money as well, the setup we see NIP utilize here towards Garage is probably one of the more effective ones. You have the two-man setup, of course, with the Jaeger, backed up by the Clash. It denies any possibility of the Monty being able to bully his way up, force off, say, a Doc or an Oryx and just bypass them. Instead, it's a lot slower, it's a lot harder for him to get into position. We did see them getting at least the opening frag, and that will benefit them, but trade back. And again, glance at the clock, 23 seconds, time ticking down. There is still 8 players alive on the server. Scratch that, as it'll turn to 7, as we'll see a man get 7. The head getting knocked clean off, but more damage being done now from Live, as he'll leave 2 players dead. Charges out towards the site and drops open the diffuser, looking to see if he can get it down. Response here from Uzi, not going to go too well, as he's overpowered. He can't utilize his Uzi, and it's all on one. Pino, 1v1 here up against Live, has the impact nade, dashes it out to do some damage. Yeah, you've got the shield, but do you have the timing to turn around on a dime, bust out the SMG, and Stone Cold Stunner the man ahead of you? He's got to push in. He needs to shut down this Hibana soon, Tim, as time is ticking away. We reach up close towards the 20-second mark. He looks to flank him, dives out through the wall, but it won't matter. He can't get up close. The consistent electrical damage is going to tickle him, and it won't be a nice type of tickling. He'll drop down to the ground. There's enough time for the defuse to come through, and NIP get a second round off the back of the 1v1. The bully with the shield.
Great plays on the clash from Pino there. Absolutely no fear in the man. Comes through, gets the first, and then moves in and just uses the shield. I don't think he necessarily knew just how low the Hibana of Live was. There was maybe a shout from his team that they'd done a bullet of damage somewhere. Somebody might have known that they hit the Hibana, that she'd been tagged, but Pino just played that perfectly, and it was just a matter of time, really. There was absolutely nothing that Live could realistically do there. You can try and approach the clash, but he just didn't have the HP in order to do it. By the time he'd have got close, the melee swing to knock the shield away, he'd have lost his life, and he was just trying to bounce in between that wall and the rotation and play that deadly game of ring around the roses just to keep the electricity off him, and he did a good job for 30 seconds, but ultimately Pino just managed to get him into his sights, and that was that. It was unfortunate for Live because it was a great play from him to begin with. Managed to get himself crouch walked up the cash stairs. Nobody knew that he was there. Absolutely free 2k for him. Gets in and gets the diffuser down in sight as well. He's going to feel a little bit hard done to losing out on that round.
And rightly so as well, because that was a lot better, a lot closer. Obviously, a surprising comeback for the fact that it was effectively a 4-on-4 with like 25 seconds left. They made a good job of it. Stabbing the dark from Live, the 2k he picked up was actually critical. That was a gigantic catalyst into the round, Tim. But in the end, it still falls flat, and a wave of silence will be washed over FaZe Clan. For now, that is. Of course, it's still very early doors. Map like Clubhouse, you want to make the most out of your defense. You need to build up a fairly big buffer here. And honestly, for my money of what we've seen recently, NIP are a lot better on the defense. I think it complements their style a lot more. You can see they prefer holding those angles and just really using their gun skill and just ripping heads off Tim. So make the most of it. Try and keep building the scoreline and give yourself a large buffer to work with so there won't be any shenanigans on the attack.
We're heading into gym and bedroom then for round number 3, so we can see that pressure is going to be applied by the looks of it to the logistics side. We've got Mav up there with the sledge. He will no doubt open up this already done. Opens up that hatch there so that the challenge can come through. We'll look at the jacuzzi wall getting opened as well. Now the Monty throws his life away. Yuna just diving in through the single window there, but poorly timed as Psycho gets one and follows it up with a second. He is a Psycho in the sight right now, taking himself 3 kills. That's a big triple. Muzi gets in on the action, and things are starting to fall apart for FaZe. This is one of the sites on this map that you really look to as the attackers. This is a real potential here for you to come in and get wins on the board. Psycho, 4k, sit down FaZe. NIP, they take 3-0, clean sweep in the first quarter. They can now just rinse and repeat the same sites.
Oh man, looking like Patrick Bateman as he pops off, just cutting his way through everyone, chopping them down a peg, Tim. That is absolutely disgusting. He had free roam into the round. He just took whatever firefight he wanted to. There was no room for trades. There was no one even positioned to go for a bit of a gamble on a trade. You can see they were so isolated. It was basically FaZe Clan saying, look, let's try and go with that faster tempo. Let's kick it up to 11 and see if that'll work to get us an opening round. Might catch NIP off guard. And normally, maybe a play like that would work. But when you go for a split and pick like that, and there's no trade potential because everyone's just so isolated, Tim, you are not going to have a good time. And that's exactly what happened, because Psycho rocked up and just was clearly the life of the party. One after another, just kills them all.
They just FaZe didn't seem to have a handle on exactly where everybody was playing in sight there, and Psycho, he just had a nice solid angle onto that window, so as soon as the it is the couple of seconds that Monty is really exposed for is in that animation, and Psycho took full advantage of that. And for me, it was just a little bit rushed from FaZe, and there's nothing wrong with that. Try and pick the pace up, try and catch that defensive side on the hop a little bit. Maybe the preparations won't be quite in place, and you might just get away with a cheap kill or two and get yourself an early man advantage, but that really was not the case. Psycho, he was more than ready. He was locked, loaded, and ready to go, and he managed to shut them down in quick fashion. So that's going to be round 3 going to NIP, and we're going to head back down to the Church and Arsenal. And if I look at this and I look at it from a point of view of what do we need to see differently from FaZe, what do they need to do to maybe have more of an impact on this round, on this basement site than we saw them last time, for me, they need to come through with a solid top floor and mid floor clearance, make sure there's no roamers so that they can play comfortably in that mid floor, and then they need to be pushing multiple angles down on this site. So I want to see them challenging blue corridor, getting in there, not relying on a hatch drop through the kitchen hatch. Let's get into blue corridor, let's get into dirt tunnel potentially. That's a question mark. It's a nice to have. It's not essential, but definitely blue tunnel, church wall. Let's get them open. Let's get control of them, and let's really put NIP to the sword here. Let's make them spin round on the heels, not know where the attack is coming from. Let's make them feel uncomfortable in the site.
Really get in there and invade their personal space, Tim. Breathe down the back of their
That's
neck.
what I want. I want it to be that person that comes uncomfortably close to you when they're speaking. You know the one? You just get like 3 inches away from your face, so you think, I can hear you. I can feel it.
Oh, mate, honestly, you feel the hot air just hitting you in the face. They say something with a P at the start, and you just get hit by a wave of spit. You're like, oh, please, stop it, NIP, stop it.
Just give me my... This is my speech space, NIP. This is my space. So, right now, FaZe, they tried getting up in the personal space of NIP once before. Gym and bedroom, they tried to rush their way in there, and it was absolutely no dice whatsoever. Now, this is a horrible angle. Look at that. That is. I mean, I'm going to call it 2 bullet holes, because technically there was already one there when he shot out a second, but that is little more than a single bullet hole being played there. That is absolutely horrendous onto the single door at the bottom of the oil pit drop. And right now, very aware of the potential for a C4 to come over in his direction live. It doesn't look like that will be the case. The Legion is playing in behind there, so Psycho will no doubt try to impact trick that wall as and when the Hibana pellets get placed on there. But a low down row of 6 is quite difficult to clear off with an impact nade. So potentially still some dice, still some real estate to be gained there. And interesting adaptation here. Rather than bringing the Monte, they've brought the Kali, which makes it a lot easier to deal with that clash, it has to be said.
Yeah, you could see that in play there. Up on top of the hatch, basically Yuna providing overwatch with the sniper, a sniper with a hell of a scope, and she'll take a shot or 2 at the shield, stunning Julio, so the shield will be risen up and you can take pot shots at his feet and make it cheaper for the man to buy shoes going forward. Right now, though, the shots are popping across the board as we see NIP starting to slay. 2 players being dropped, leaving it just up on Live and Ion, and they're being overwhelmed. These shots coming through over the top of the dinner table, and they are feeding them bullets. It won't matter though, FaZe clan, you might be on the site, but you can't crack that diffuser open. Time has been wasted. And this is just classic NIP. It's absolutely vintage. It's what they did for 4 rounds against Liquid back on Cafe in that best of 3, Tim. They just played time. They burn that clock down. They leave you with nothing. So when you eventually make it onto the site, it's fight or flight. And half of the time, you can't even crack that diffuser open to take a stab at it. You just concede the round, and NIP now go to 4-0. This is a wild start on a map like Clubhouse.
The big problem, there's 2 big problems for FaZe. Well, there's 3. I'll just keep piling on, Jackie. I'll keep adding
17.
There's 17 big problems for FaZe. They've got 99 problems, Jackie, right now.
And a round ain't one.
And a round is not one, because they can't put one on the board. And right now, there's 3 big problems as I see it. 1, it's 4-0 on the scoreboard. That is obviously not a good start for FaZe Clan. They need to get a round on the board as soon as possible. 2, they are not great on the defense of Clubhouse. That's the fact. They've only got better than a 50% win rate on one site, and that is CCTV cache. Otherwise, it is 50% or less. And right now, NIP are looking like they are going to need a low amount of rounds on the attack to actually win this one. So that does not play into FaZe's favour either. And the third problem, as I see it, is that this is FaZe's map pick. They came out and chose to go to Clubhouse. They are heading into Consulate next, Jackie. Consulate. Who wants to play NIP on Consular after what we have seen from them so far this season? I know I don't, and I'm pretty sure FaZe don't. So this is going to be an uphill struggle if they can't start getting rounds on the board very quickly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's already too much of a buffer when you look at it for what it is, right? Like, rounds being the commodity right now, NIP have got 4. In terms of the sites that they can play as well and how dominant they've looked into these rounds, I still feel like there's a possibility they could even add another one on top. Maybe get this closer towards like a 5-1 region and then just bully FaZe Clan. If you win a game, that one-sided as well, coming out here into the upper bracket, the fight where FaZe Clan are going to be thinking, if we win this, we get that one map advantage, we go into the grand final, we don't have to slog it out in the lower bracket, we're done for the day, we've only had to play 2 best of 3s. All of a sudden, that turns into seeds of doubt of you thinking, if we concede the second map, if we lose over on Consulate, that's it. We're in the lower bracket. We have the matchup against Liquid that is not going to be easy. We saw what that looked like in the regular season, Tim, so it's only going to be harder now it's here in bracket play. There is a lot of weight that will be dropped onto FaZe Clan. It'll be like a ton of bricks hitting them all at once. And talking of a ton, there is a ton of damage being done onto Pino as the explosions will come through. The shots rattling up as well. FaZe Clan looking to try and play with the vertical angles right now to get those shots up and hit him underneath the shield.
Not sure about the exact location of those Zephyrs. I mean, at the end of the day, the wall has been opened, but it would have allowed Julio to still play up at that wall had he chosen to. They weren't quite close enough to the wall, but the job is done. And let's not get overly critical. The east wall is open. That's what they were looking for. Right now, they've got a problem, though. They've got Pino with the clash on the garage balcony once again. They're looking to push Yuna up there, but as I've said, Yuna cannot push into a clash on the Montagne because all that will happen is that electricity charge will be utilized, and over time, it will drain the health away from the Monty, and there's nothing that he can do about it. So they need to find a solution to that, and they need to find a solution to many things as Julio and Psycho come in with a double 2 headshots. Astro going off the board along the way, and that now leaves us 4 versus 1 with only Yuna. This is 5-0. Pulls the pistol out, tries to do something. Psycho once again. Psycho's going absolutely ham this round, Jackie. He is taking shots left, right, and centre. Look at that, look at it! Absolutely disgusting shot from him.
Yeah, mate, he's on one, and the whammy coming out from the Wamai, just headshot after headshot, mounting all of the FaZe Clan faces up above his mantelpiece, and he'll sit down for a nice hot chocky before bed. Oh, mate, they want to try and put this game to bed, Tim. 5 rounds already. They haven't conceded a single round. We were debating about the idea of unicorn games back in the regular season, Tim. I didn't think we'd be having these mythical games coming out here in the major, but there's a possibility for it. If they get 2 more rounds, bring their total up to 7, this would be a crazy matchup, and it would be a lockdown with a flawless result to start off this best of 3.
It'd be unbelievable, to be fair, and there's a big bit of me, Jackie, that knows, I'm not going to say thinks, I'm going to say knows that FaZe has got a fight in them here. There is something come from them. This is not the FaZe Clan that we are used to seeing. It's not the FaZe Clan that we saw yesterday, and it's not the FaZe Clan that we saw fight tooth and nail against Team Liquid in that very last match of the regular season to go 7-4, 7-4. They managed to get themselves a draw. It was 7-4 in either direction, and they locked it down. They played very well, and this is not them. This is not what we are used to seeing from them. They've certainly got more to bring to the table. Now, interestingly, Jackie, he's picked up the Finker. Comfort pick there, I'm sure. They've put the operator to great use throughout the season so far. Yuna with a huge 1v4 on coastline, certainly going to end up as one of the players of the season, no matter what we see here through the majors. It was that good. It is worth a look back at some point in the future. Don't get carried away right now. We've got Great Siege to bring you, but he is very, very capable on Yuna. The question is he capable enough? Can he do this here in round 6?
It's also, will they actually utilize that thinker and maybe go for a bit more of a tempo play off the back of it, right? You can pop that active ability, get the additional overheal on the health, then just charge in. Go full Marauders, charge through, looking like a pack of Vikings, swinging their axes, attempting to behead the NIP team. I don't know if we'll see that just yet. She is actually going to utilize the ability now, as Yuna will pop it. You can see the extra bit of HP coming through. And even then, a little extra isn't going to help too much if you get a charge of nitro dashed towards your face, Tim. That would still really pack a punch, and that's what Pino is hoping for. Listening out for the audio cue on the contact, then once through with the window he's opened up in the top left. We've seen this lineup previously, and it got a 2K into the games last night. Issue is, he's going to be killed. There won't be a possibility of that actually happening tonight. Astro charges in, switches to the sidearm and disarms Pino. They're actually getting a bit of map control here, Tim. This is way better, and it's the opening pick going to FaZe Clan. This is a good start.
Much better for them. We saw Pino have that huge double nitro kill yesterday above the exact same angle, above the wall, onto the eastern breach, whilst defending gym and bedroom. It was an absolute bomb of a kill, but it's not going to happen this time, and we can see that NIP have been forced right away from the positions. They're all the way down in lounge here. That's how far they've been pushed back, and they are looking at now pushing themselves back through bar and getting up those main stairs and back to site. They are 4 versus 3. Astro going well and gave them the big start that they needed, and this site is not easy to lock down with 3 people with a minute left to go. The pressure is going to mount very quickly here, and we can see exactly that happening with Kamikaze coming out with those toxic babe canisters, starting to try and waste time already. But with a minute left on the clock, there is far more time to waste than he can manage with that utility. So the pressure is going to build, and right now FaZe, they need to just try and bait out as much of that utility as they can. But we can see the little push coming through into logistics there. Psycho shuts down 1. Kamikaze gets Unit on a trade, and it is just trades left, right and centre. But once again, NIP coming out on top. They will get the kill onto Ion. It leaves Mav now 1 versus 2. Can he do it? He's got plenty of time, but the diffuser is down cold on the ground. He needs to find these one at a time. He gets 1. That's Kamikaze. 1 versus 1. He knows where the last man is. He knows that there's going to be one in or around the showers area. He's going to move around. Is this wall still reinforced? Yes. So the man is locked deep. Muzi inside of showers now. He needs to be challenged as he swings around. Does he get the pre-fire? No, he doesn't check his corners, and Muzi takes full advantage. Mav, he had to make a move. He had to go towards that diffuser. He gave a quick sweep of the showers as quickly as he could, but ultimately, with 10 seconds left on the clock, he had to make a move. Unfortunately for him, it was the wrong one.
The issue is, he wasn't even playing inside the shower either. He wasn't even just hiding in there, tucked away. He was on the off angle, waiting towards the right, and it was clearly the right move to make. As they move through that half with a flawless affair. 6 rounds on the spin, back to back. They build themselves a crazy lead here. And Tim, if they get one more, that is a flawless game. That is a unicorn game picked up here. You don't see them often, especially not in a major, for it to just be a raw 7-0. For NIP to rock up tonight, be G'd up, and clearly prove that they are gassed going into this, as they have dominated against FaZe Clan so far. It's a matter of, will they wake up? Because if they don't now, it's over. Guaranteed overtime no matter what for NIPs. They've already got themselves to 6. If they do get that extra round, they go through with a 1-map advantage onto Consulate. And the stars really have aligned for them, Tim, as that is a map they've looked absolutely dominant on the entire regular season. Over the 15 play days, they were too hot to trot on Consulate. And it could be guarantees they go into that best of 5 final with a 1-map advantage if they win this round and start that journey here on Clubhouse.
The thing is, if FaZe get beaten 7-0 here, I really don't see much of a way that they come away with a win on Consulate. And we know that LATAM's been full of surprises, but NIP have just been so solid there and coming into it so beaten up. But my worry extends beyond that. Imagine loading into that Team Liquid game 15 or so minutes after you've finished here. If you've been well and truly battered by NIP, and then you have to come up against a team like Liquid, it really is going to put FaZe on a huge back foot. And so they need to come out fighting here. They need to make a game of this at least. It needs to be 7-3, 7-4. They need to get themselves into things so that they can have a reasonable opportunity on Consulate. Now, we can see that we've got the top floor roam coming out on the setup here defensively from FaZe Clan. So they're going to play likely the Mute and the Mozzie, I would imagine. Live and Ion will be up on the top floor. They'll be using the gadgets to try and deny as much information as they can. But right now, looks like they're being forced back to site very, very quickly by NIP. And I just wonder if the lack of a castle might be playing into that. Usually you would have a castle in for this strat as well, so that you've got some added safety to be able to rotate back towards site. But without that in place, it just feels like those top floor roamers are being forced away a little bit.
I'm glad we got to see a little bit of Psycho Cam as well there on the Monty. He's got 11 frags. I think he got himself up to 10 kills, back at like round 4 or something. So obviously not as much performance in the prior 2 rounds, but before that, he was just everyone, Tim. He was the one-man army, quite literally the American Psycho, but looking more like the Brazilian Psycho with the way he's been playing it. And this is scary. This game's just looking damn psychotic with the rate of rounds that NIP have been picking up. FaZe Clan still stuck there with nothing to their name. Attempting to utilize the Nitro at least, as we'll see some of the shots coming out, looking to do some damage on the early push and quell this one before it gets out of hand. But they could be going for the hatch drop. They'll open up the vertical angle. They'll have a clear line of sight down in towards that A-bomb site. And there is a triple threat of defense waiting for that to come through.
Hatches are being opened at the minute. Astro desperately needs to be cleared out of blue for me. We've seen a couple of rounds with Neskin there, in particular across the regular season, Jackie, showing just how important that area is, and he's been able to really dominate from there, and Astro is exactly the same sort of player who will do that now. We've got Psycho pushing forward into Moto. He's looking to come up against the clash potentially. He's just going to clear out that barbed wire, and this could be a real clash of the Titans, as Mav and Psycho will face off against each other anytime now, and you can see that damage being done, but the Kali is on the hatch, and as we said, a great counter to the Clash play there, because every shot with that sniper rifle just rips the shield out of the Clash's hands, and Psycho, he's going to take a real long-range effort on the pistol hip fire there, but will have no joy. Shut down in the corridor by Ion onto Pino. That is going to start things off for FaZe here. Good start, and gets them a small advantage, and with only 8 seconds left, there is a lot of work to be done, and in comes the defensive collapse, and that is the round for FaZe. They've got themselves one on the board, Jackie. There will be no whitewash today.
It's not going to be the unicorn game. The mythology won't be coming out, and it won't be a monstrous game from NIP, but they're still at match point. They're still only 1 round away from them winning it. So that is the scary prospect that FaZe Clan have to contend with. They need 5 rounds back-to-back to take this into overtime here on the first map. That's the best possible outcome. Of course, each and every round they get as well, that's going to be slightly better for their mentality going forward. Because if you did get 7-0 on the first, then you go into consulate, you're going to be kicking yourselves, you're going to be frustrated, your headspace might not be in the right place, and you might struggle into the rest of the series. At least now, Tim, they got a chance to build a bit of a buffer. You know, who's to say it's not possible that they can't come back into it, because NIP, again, we see the telltale signs of what they do when they're on their attack. It's slow. They do like to play that clock down. They don't want to over-aggress too early. But the issue is, if you're not baiting out utility, if you're not forcing anyone to peek, if you're not actually getting those little firefights and instigating peaks, Tim, where you can get an advantage off the back of it, all you're doing is going into a 5 versus 5 street fight with FaZe Clan having everything they need in terms of gadgets, just waiting for you to peek them. And normally that's going to favor them, especially when you can bring out that smoke. You get those free cans. If you don't have a reason to use them, you're going to have all 3 of them waiting for the last 15 seconds. You can drop them on the diffuser. You can drop them on a choke point, and you will gas everyone out of that room, forcing them to either concede the round or just accept their fate and die on the plant.
For me, this one is going to be decided in gym and bedroom. I think that this should be a FaZe site. They are slightly, and I mean slightly, they are a smidge under 90% win rate here in CCTV and Cash. 9 rounds they've played on the season, and not once have they allowed that diffuser to be activated on the ground. FaZe know this site like the back of their hands, so it's going to be a big win for NIP if they can take it here, but the big problem for FaZe is that tertiary site. Going into gym and bedroom after this, they have no room for a mistake whatsoever. They have to fight back with 6 consecutive defenses. They have to do exactly the same to NIP as was done to them, and go 6-0 on their defense and try to fight their way back to overtime. And I think they get another one on the board here. They've got a pretty strong setup, as we can see. They're going to try to prevent that exothermic charge, but will be unsuccessful. The Bandit battery is still applied, but not before the wall is open. So that is now going to leave Julio on the rappel there. He's going to have an angle just to try and hold down any rotations into this side of the site. So that's a good start, but we're seeing that same 2-man defense. And the question is, how can Garage Catwalk be cleared out? That needs to be step number 2, to then allow them to aggress into site with the diffuser, for Kamikaze to move in there and try and get that on the ground.
Seems like right now they're opting to just try and bypass Garage entirely as they send in the Ash to just sprint straight forward. Psycho literally charges in and causes an early confrontation. Major Maestro is dropped though as Ion's going to take a bullet to the brain and he'll drop down to the DEC. Moving us into a 4 versus 4 now with a minute and 20 seconds still on the clock as time slowly starts to roll by. Drone still being utilized as well to get that extra bit of reconnaissance over towards Garage as they now realize they are going to have to force those players out of positions if they want to go for this execute. They tried to just go for shock and awe, didn't work, wasn't clean. Backstab from the Hibana could be big though, Tim, as they can converge now, but Muzi's doing everything. The human Uzi on the Zofia as he'll really hit them with a side swipe, drop 2 of the players down, and now this is looking like it is going to be the end for FaZe Clan. Only one man remains, Yuna with the Nitro, looking to try and detonate and destroy as he'll chuck it in, but he's not a one-man demolition squad. He's a one-man dead boy. As he's dropped to the ground by Kamikaze, bullet to the brain. He's over and done with. NIP pick up the win on Clubhouse, Tim, as they'll make their move 7-1 on the split. 1 round is all they drop. That is a hell of a matchup on Clubhouse.
I think it's fair to say that we didn't expect to see that out of the first matchup. NIP, I suggested yesterday, Jackie had maybe hit form at the right